they could make it work. We'll see what ThunderTalk think of that. I really liked their early Rumble last game, and as we mentioned, I want to see them continue that, trying to get a winning topside matchup for Keshi, who I do think can be trusted with a winning topside matchup. He, as a player, can actually manage his leads pretty responsibly, can pull out carries, as we saw with the Fiora, even though that didn't go well. We don't want to talk about that too much, but the Fiora was played, and that was big. There are other winning top lane picks that we could go for, and Jace is one.
Yeah, very interesting. Going to be picking up the Jace right here. Now, we have actually seen the Jace in both the top lane and in the jungle right here for ThunderTalk. So they can move that one around, going to give them a little bit of early flexibility. And I do like that. I think ThunderTalk, when they've needed some real winning from potentially a lane or from the jungle, having a little bit of flexibility right there is going to help. I also like the Varus first pick right here from LGD, one of the highest pick ban champions for a reason at the moment, and gives you a ton of flexibility. Any of these champions that you want to go towards for LGD will work. I'd like the Skarner a little bit more, just because, yeah, it's something a little bit different, and that Impale can be really nice for a Jace that wants to be playing from short range to do his main damage. It's got to make ThunderTalk take a little bit of a pause when picking anything that's going to be too close ranged.
Yeah, do you really want to get up in Skarner's face? I don't think so. As a result, ThunderTalk are more considering their options for the ranged matchups. What they can take perhaps into the mid lane seems to be the focus of the Hovers so far. And he seems a lot safer to me than Cassiopeia, but with Ryze now essentially eliminated, not banned, but via Fearless, can't play him, Cassiopeia is going to bring a lot of damage to the table, is quite a good mid laner, all things considered.
And I really do like it into the Skarner. Anytime the Skarner's trying to just sprint at you, can potentially just stun him up, stop a lot of that aggression coming on through. And again, the Miasma is just super nice. It can cut a lot of these heavy aggressive champions in half, make them a lot less effective overall. And alongside the Wukong, that does sort of lock us into our lanes. We are going to now have that as the Jace in the top lane for Keshi, as we were expecting it to be. That's where we had seen it for the most part be played on ThunderTalk. And with the lanes sort of locked in right here from them, this is a composition that kind of wants to be team fighting. You've got some early poke that you can be putting on through before your team fights, but really, you're looking for some all-in potential here out of ThunderTalk.
Is this first round, like, I mean, in terms of spikes, Cassiopeia Jace feels more like around like the 10-12 minute mark that they'd be especially strong. First dragon, I could see, especially with Varus, going to LGD.
Yes, and this is something that LGD have just liked to play around. As much as they love to get the early grubs for themselves, they also are very happy to just play around an early Jake, get themselves as many objectives as possible. And I think especially with the Yorick, you're going to be wanting to get those grubs, but that gives you extra priority around that first Drake. You want to start to get yourself down into the bottom lane, use some priority through the bottom side to grab that first Drake. It means that when the grubs spawn, you don't have to worry so much about then getting back down for another Drake to spawn. You can give that one over one apiece. It's not going to be so much of an issue. And LGD's composition so far, as much as I'm not the biggest fan of the Yorick, I do like it in this sort of composition where you've got yourself, again, some early aggression that you can play through, but also you're not so much focusing on your top laner being a big part of your CC. You've got the Varus to give you something, you've got the Skarner, you don't need an engaged top laner to make things work.
We definitely saw how LGD were, I'd say, more comfortable than ThunderTalk in a split-up scenario, when you do just have your side lanes isolated, when you're not 5v5ing for everything. And this plays even more into that. A LeBlanc and a Yorick on the same side let LGD play side lane warriors and pick ThunderTalk apart if they misplay.
Sideline Warriors is going to be the name of the game right here. You can send almost anybody in this game into the side lane to go push these through, and that's going to make ThunderTalk have to really respond to this map pressure and make sure that their macro is as good as possible. Not necessarily something that ThunderTalk has been quite as impressive on. They're going to grab themselves the Ziggs right here, so going towards the AP down in the bottom lane, and it's going to be paired up alongside the Alistar. I mean, I like the Alistar in this composition. Anybody trying to jump in could immediately just be punted back away. Gives you that extra level of safety and a little bit of tankiness to pair up alongside Junhao when trying to get involved in these team fights. And teamfights really are going to have to be the name of the game here for ThunderTalk, because LGD might not necessarily even engage in them too often if they can get these side lane pressures going. Okay, with the Nico, maybe you do want to...
wild. I was like, Tom Kench, wait a minute, it's Nico.
Yep.
Nico into this
in and out of the game, apparently.
Yeah. Nico in this comp, guess gives you a strong, like, 3-core, nice peel for Shaoye when you've got Heng and YCX next to him. There's basically no way that you're touching Varus. I think ThunderTalk shouldn't really feel too bothered by that, to be honest. I think if we're grouped up, ThunderTalk are still winning into this composition, but when the map splits apart, that's where we really see LGD's strengths. How are you feeling about it?
I feel like the pick that can come through from this LGD composition cannot be sniffed at, right? Anytime you've got yourself the Chains of Corruption that could potentially land, if you do hit that, Tangyuan can immediately jump in and just blow somebody up. The Cassiopeia and the Ziggs both going to be very targetable for him. So you have a couple of options like that. As you've been saying though, right, it's going to be more about the split pushes, but I think with YCX picking up this Nico, that does tell me that LGD are still looking to find these team fights. And between the Nico and the Skarner, there is potential to just wombo combo blow people up as well. I think LGD have a lot of different avenues to potentially play through, and it's once again very much going to be on the early jungle pathing from both of these guys to see what their teams are really able to do. If Heng's able to play with as much freedom as he did in the previous game, I think this could well be another victory here for LGD.
Especially if he gets ahead on Skarner, that can be absolutely ridiculous. Difficult to kill, very easy to stay in your face. LGD are terrifying, and ThunderTalk need to step up in game number 2, find some win conditions of their own, and they've certainly got the damage to do so.
Alrighty. We have certainly seen the Ziggs popping up more and more recently. The AP in the bot lane can be pretty fun, and I do actually really like it into the Varus. The Varus Nico is one of the heaviest poke lanes that you're going to have, and the Ziggs one of the few champions that actually does have enough range damage really to be able to keep farming up, and with that satchel charge, a little bit of extra survivability to be able to jump back away if potentially needed. You expect them to get pushed quite heavily in during this early lane, although Arn trying to stop that from happening too badly, constantly stepping up, looking to land as many bombs as possible. If you're able to stabilize through the very early lane right here for ThunderTalk, that's a massive win for them.
Especially with how vulnerable Alistar can be to this particular lane. Being melee and having a god-awful level 1, Feather is just headbutting away and on the grind, as Alistar players will know. First couple of levels, especially in this meta, pretty difficult to get through. I think the nice thing for ThunderTalk is that we're not seeing any crazy early invades out of Heng. He started off on his top side, he finished clearing his top side, and like a regular, normal person who's not harassing your jungler has gone to his bot side.
Just going to be going for that full clear. Not too surprising from the early clear coming right out of a Skarner. And also good to just, hang on, mix things up a little bit as well. Don't want to get too predictable and constantly going for some funky pathing. As again, we watch the bot lanes get quite explosive. Still, we talked about ThunderTalk needing some early lanes to potentially play around, and this top lane certainly could be that. Some good pressure here. Don't know how much you're really going to be able to gank the mid lane, though, with a LeBlanc on the other side. Bot lane, with constant pressure, constantly looking to push in, really could be vulnerable.
So where are we ganking? Because we talked in game 1 about how Junhao wants to have not just a jungle matchup he can win, but another matchup that he can gank. Are we ganking mid lane? Or are we ganking top lane?
I think it's more likely that the top lane is going to be the answer right here. A little bit more of an explosive matchup, and we see the Yorick picked quite often. A little bit more often than I would expect, considering how rough a lot of teams end up finding the experience with this champ. It really does need quite a lot of early gold into his back pocket to actually be effective, because nobody is actually happy with the Yorick to just sit in a side lane, as you potentially see in a lot of your solo queue games. They instead really do want these Yoricks to join up for the team fights, and for them to be able to be strong enough to do both, you really do need some early gold to go through.
Having picked up both Scuttle Crabs now, Heng gets the bot, Junhao gets the top, and actually gets spotted by Burdol. Both our junglers will be taking their first resets as well. Giant Spell comes through for Heng, and a flash comes through out of Heru, as YCX's roam forces that early cooldown. Now, no summoners in the mid lane, and you know Heng is looking there.
Absolutely. We were talking about where the potential ganks could be. Well, now Heng definitely should be looking at the mid lane. Unlikely, really, to be looking for too many ganks early on unless one presents itself. Really, you want to be getting to that level 6 mark to really have the most effective ganks with that Impale available. That being said, could look for something onto Keshi right here, and if Keshi keeps stepping up, yeah, he's gonna get himself killed.
It's like, that being said, it is Heng, and Heng loves an early kill. First blood picked up not by him, but by Burdol, a credit to his team.
If you serve yourself up on a silver platter as well, right, going way too far forwards, not with any support behind you, no vision behind him either, Keshi just going to get himself taken down. And the fact that that early kill goes over to Burdol is massive. We were just talking about how this Yorick really needs to get to that first couple of items, right, often moving towards the Trinity Force. You need a second item, really, something like the Shojin, to make yourself powerful enough to really get anything going. And that's quite an expensive build path to be moving towards, and that early injection of gold is going to help quite heavily for getting Burdol into a good spot to take over in this game.
On right back to business as usual. He's not even going to miss a beat on his full clear, but Junhao's coming in to see what he can do about that. Doesn't actually spot anything, doesn't lay down any wards, so it looks like a path to the bot side for Junhao. A gank being set up there as Tangyuan does back away in the mid lane. Eats the ultimate as Feather forces a double knockup down the throats of LGD. On picks up the kill with the bouncing bomb, and ganks working out for both sides as ThunderTalk make one themselves.
There we go, and I've got to be honest, if I have to pick between a kill going over to an early Yorick and a pick going over early to a Ziggs, I want the kill on the Ziggs. The Ziggs has been incredibly strong at the moment. The amount of damage that can be done during these late game team fights is insane. And On, as we were talking about, just needed to kind of get through the early couple of levels to be able to stabilize in this matchup. With this kill in the back pocket too, he's going to find that even easier. That is a really nice gank to see out of ThunderTalk, showing life in this series. Still, ThunderTalk are going to lose a little bit of map pressure down on the bottom side because of all of that pressure coming through, and Heng, recognizing that, will pick up the first Drake of the game, something I really wanted to see from them, so they can then head back to base and go towards the top side of the map. 1 minute 50 until the critical grubs will be coming up.
Yeah, I gotta appreciate the fact that LGD, despite losing the kill bot lane, know that they have the space for Dragon, given that On was out of mana, given that he and Junhao needed to reset. It works out. The trade is all right. You lose your AD carry, give a kill over, but you get the Dragon as you had expected to with this draft. There are still ways that LGD are feeling very good after that play, even if they're not quite sure exactly what the path forward is. And that's going to be our job as to where we are going next. Rift Herald up in just about a minute. Where these teams choose to prioritize is going to be big, but as Shaoye ticks level 6, On knew it was coming and gets out of range of the Chains of Corruption with a nicely placed satchel charge.
This is the thing. This is the other reason that you pick this Ziggs and the matchup. You can farm from far enough away to not constantly be under threat, and then the satchel charge, if you do step a little bit too far up, just helps to get you back to safety. And getting through the early laning phase, so far looking so good for On. As we've been highlighting, right, the grubs could be pretty critical, but all of the junglers kind of coalescing around the mid lane right now, and Heng, looking to steal away some chickens, has a lot of support from his friends in the area.
YCX is here, Feather is not. So, this camp, and more than that, could be going over to LGD. Junhao does know that he's got back up now, though, and with a big petrifying gaze coming in from Heru, we finally got Chains of Corruption showing up with Shaoye, and LGD are going to grab the first kill with Junhao committing to finish off Tangyuan. He will not get away, and instead will be sent to the death realm by Shaoye. Picks up a kill there just as On shows up. This is still extremely messy, and everybody, especially LGD, have got it disengaged now. Top side, not looking too much better though, as Keshi's got to run for the hills, and Burdol's got to do the same with a teleport up to top lane for Feather.
Yeah, Feather teleporting in to potentially look for something more. Unlikely that he's going to be able to grab it as the Maiden still does not go down, and Feather's only level 5 right now. He's so squishy.
It's a kill for Burdol. He's like 3 seconds away from picking that up. Finally, the headbutt will come through, saving Feather for now. Has Burdol overextended? What on earth are we trading here? The Maiden has fallen, and finally, Burdol is no longer playing a 2v2.
Yeah, Junhao now going to step up, is going to be spotted out onto a control ward, but I don't know if Burdol's going to be able to get away. Okay, Junhao doesn't quite have enough to be able to gap close onto him. And such a messy couple of fights, and we talked about these grubs being critical. Well, we've had to have some resets come through just as they spawn.
Stop, Tangyuan. Stop. I'm tired. We're done.
I think Junhao is at least going to be pushed away, and Heng is now going to be able to arrive and pick these up. The reason we've been talking about these as being a critical part of all of these fights is because of the champions we have in this game, right? You've got yourself the Yorick, you've got yourself the Ziggs. Whoever has those grubs is just going to have that extra level of push coming on through, and for a heavily side lane dependent matchup, that is going to give you a little bit of extra. You can also see throughout this team fight, messy, couple of big ultis and things landing from ThunderTalk, but at this point in the game, pre-first items, their champions do very little damage. Really only Junhao that actually has any damage available to him at all, and it just is not quite enough to be able to pick himself up any real kills. And LGD, as much as it's messy, they come out on top time and time again.
It really works out for them, both here and then in top side, as we just saw Burdol, despite all of the action that went down, the fact that he doesn't die and everybody from ThunderTalk comes up makes this play even deadlier. Keshi, left alone up here, draws only attention from Heng for a second and will still fall. LGD coming out way ahead, 10 minutes into the game. They've doubled the kills with ThunderTalk, nothing too crazy right now, but the fact that half of those are on Yorick is huge.
I mean, we'll see how this matchup continues on going, but with the 27-minute stomp that we had in the first game, I don't think anybody would have been expecting the ThunderTalk versus JDG matchup to be the closer of the matchups between that and this one versus LGD. Right now, LGD really are just kind of stomping onto ThunderTalk. A couple kills back here and there for ThunderTalk. And at least Junhao's been able to get something going early on, a kill into Arn's back pocket. Across the board, though, beginnings of a gold lead forming. 1,500 overall isn't really reflecting in the items quite yet, but that's going to change very soon. First item should be coming through after the next set of recalls out of LGD.
And Bloxxer, you and I are going to be very praise-forward about what LGD are doing so far, because, like you talk about, it's a great start to the game. It's not the end, however, and I think it's important that everybody at home get some clarity on this. It's a fantastic start for LGD. ThunderTalk still have some ways to play this game out, assuming that Keshi doesn't solo die. Once Keshi starts solo dying, it may be what is that thing Rooted said? El Jovismo.
That's the most rooted thing I've ever said.
Yeah.
That would fit, and I gotta be honest, as much as Keshi doesn't die, he certainly isn't living right now. He is not having any success up in the top lane. And on the bottom side though, big aggression coming through, Feather jumping forward.
Great satchel charge from On, gets out a lot of damage. Might actually let the rest of ThunderTalk live. As I say that, the Impale plus commitment from Junhao does take him down, and Tangyuan does the rest, cleaning up On, and now looking for Feather as well. That is 3 kills for 1 in the favor of LGD, and things have gone from slightly uncomfortable to extremely itchy for ThunderTalk.
Indeed, and especially with the way that you're now going to be getting a little bit of push down onto the bottom side of the map. You got a couple plates at least mid lane from Heru, but overall things not going quite as well as they would have hoped. And you've now got a top lane that's not winning and a bot lane that's not winning as well. Unfortunately for YCX in this play, Heng ends up impaling in his demise. Puts the impale through right here, but with Tangyuan getting the big flank off, Junhao just gets a little bit of a free entrance in to pick up the kill onto YCX, but Tangyuan, big flank coming on through, is able to pick up the kill here onto Feather. As we've been saying, right, as much as we've had some hope for ThunderTalk coming through, it's their late game team fighting that's overall their best.
And they need to get there. The game needs to go longer than 20 minutes. And this, I will say, is a good thing. The fact that we get Keshi a kill, nice. The fact that On is probably dying, not so nice. Slammed into the wall right there, and Tangyuan bringing his boatloads of damage is going to put himself up 3-1 on a LeBlanc. Game number 2. I'm sure you can hear in my voice. It's looking good for LGD.
It is indeed. I mean, having that Luden's already completed right here for Tangyuan. And this is something that we had really hoped to see. As much as ThunderTalk had been able to come out actually as a better seed from Group Nirvana, LGD, they had themselves 2 of those all-pro votes coming in through. Burdol in the top lane, Tangyuan in the mid lane. They had just played really well together for the entire team, and I love to see them coming through in this one. So far, Burdol's not quite had as explosive of a series, but Tangyuan has been all over the map.
And these are players that I'm really good to highlight given how well they've performed this split. They earned our All-Pros here on the LPL English broadcast, and it was for reasons exactly like this. The fact that they can perform so well in their solo, in their side lanes, and then extend that into the rest of the map, make Burdol and Tangyuan really difficult to deal with, especially with the way that ThunderTalk have been playing so far. The fact that Burdol and Tangyuan can manage themselves on their own in the side lane is ThunderTalk's biggest problem.
Yes, very much so, and you can see it reflected right now in the gold. There are gold leads across the map, and the 1.1k happening here for Tangyuan is the real big problem. This LeBlanc is truly unlocked, and with some very squishy members across the board, it really doesn't feel like Tangyuan needs to worry too much about who it is that he's pumping damage into, more that he's just continuing to make it work.
Heru's probably dying. I guess he has ult, so it's a little risky to dive him, but there is a world where Heru steps one single foot, but he doesn't have feet. One single scale out of line.
Yeah. And just gets taken out immediately. Luckily for him, not quite going to happen. The Rift Herald is now going to be on the map, and this has been LGD's all game long. They have so much priority to be playing around whichever of the lanes they want. Could potentially not even go straight towards the Rift Herald and instead look for some kind of dive top lane onto Keshi, with Heng moving around towards this side. Could potentially happen.
I mean, heck, they could do both. Feather and Junhao are here, though, so this is a 3v3. Heng gets out over the wall, and LGD just deal a little bit of damage to the tower, but it is far less disastrous than it could have been, with some nice heads-up macro from ThunderTalk to keep their top laner safe.
And realizing that there was likely to be some sort of play on towards the top side of the map with this Rift Herald available. Instead, these resets are just potentially going to be coming on through right here. You still do have multiple members in the area for ThunderTalk, so they might try to start up this Rift Herald themselves, and indeed, it looks like they have.
Do LGD want to fight for this? Yes, they do. Teleport up to the top side for ThunderTalk, and YCX on a big flank does find two, but fights happening on the other side as well, with both Impale and Chains of Corruption being used to snipe Heru. And there's one pick going the way of LGD, and no kills for ThunderTalk so far. Burdol, low, is going to eat a lot of the big bomb out of On, but ultimately, it'll be Tangyuan that picks up yet another kill, taking out On, and YCX, even so, is going to get to walk out of this one on almost 100 HP. A double kill goes to Tangyuan on the LeBlanc, and Heng, extending the fight, looking for Keshi, has the backup from Tangyuan once again to make it happen. Who will they get? Who will they find? Unfortunately, it's going to be Feather. R.I.P. Feather.
RIP, and potentially even RIP the actual lives of ThunderTalk. Still, if they do end up losing outright here, in-game, in League of Legends, very much right here, in this spring split, I'd still say this is overall a pretty good split for them, right? There was a moment where in their final matchup of the entire split versus EDG, if they lost, they were going to be gone. We were not going to see them in split number 3. Instead, losing out right here wouldn't be too bad, then that is unfortunately looking like what's going to happen, as LGD are just playing way better right now. You can see it's a very split situation. Potentially could have been worse if it wasn't for YCX hitting a massive pop blossom onto multiple members and just delaying that top side of the fight, whilst the bottom side were able to grab a good couple of kills and then rotate on.
This already was a really good play for LGD in a really bad situation for ThunderTalk. But you know what makes it worse? Is that Heru flashed away from that Impale and still got caught by it. Yeah. That breaks my heart, actually. Because, like, now not only have you died, not only have you lost the top side objective, you also, on Cassiopeia, into this composition, well behind, don't have a crucial survivability tool. And that makes every fight for the next 4 or 5 minutes all the harder for ThunderTalk, especially when facing down a Rift Herald and Tangyuan in your jungle. Heru panicked ults, does not hit anything, and still gets taken out, while an Impale onto his jungler is not looking too much better. A snipe from Shaoye onto an invisible Wukong, and we are engaging with the Rift Herald. Burdol should be able to pick up Feather even as he gets knocked underneath the turret. LGD do lose their top laner, but they gain so much. 4 members dead, maybe 5 on LGD, as Tangyuan is bringing a mobile nuclear armament with him wherever he goes. It's
It
fine.
might well be 2 quick MVPs coming through for Tangyuan, as he has just been all over this map. The fact you can also now peel back right here as LGD and pick themselves up this Drake. I think the thing that's been most impressive to me about this game is that it hasn't come from the same kind of getting into your enemy jungle trickery that Heru Heng has been able to grab for his team in the previous game and in their wins versus Weibo. Instead, this has been a far more straight up, in your face, I'm just going to play better than you kind of playstyle. And it has been working out so well. The fact that it's worked out for them in the top lane, in the bot lane right here, you're feeling confident enough to be engaging with the Rift Herald. I mean, it's all been so much fun to watch. Yes, you lose your top laner, but at this point, LGD, they are well and truly eyes on the Nexus.
Yeah, I mean, you're losing your top laner for the memes. Arms up in the air finish from ThunderTalk, because it feels too messy around the top lane. I like Keshi as a person, as a player, but when it comes down to the plans that ThunderTalk have for the future of this best of 5, I don't think that we can afford to be picking carry champions for him anymore, because that's not a winning lane. It's actually turned into a loss condition for ThunderTalk.
It has very much, and into a Yorick as well, the sort of champion that really struggles in a lot of situations to get things going. He's been able to play a very easy early game, has Burdol, and now he's got those 2 items that the Yorick begins to really spike out. All of a sudden, he's going to be good in the team fights, he's going to be good to just keep pushing on the side lanes. And you talked very early on during the draft about how the side lanes were going to be critical here for LGD. Well, these side lane champions are well and truly online. You'd rather go fight Burdol, but we've already seen what he can do in a 2v1, and Tangyuan is just a nightmare at this point.
Are we 20-minute varying? What's going on?
Yeah,
Is there some sort of secret? Are we like Heng
well,
is
you
just
can.
solo
That's
chilling?
the thing, you can, right, in this situation. When you've got yourself this Heartsteel, this is just a thing you can do on any spare Heartsteel. You can just do this now. It's very slow, that's why you're going to bring a couple other members over once they've been able to push out the top lane. But being able to just sneak this one away right under the noses of ThunderTalk is going to be nice, and I just don't know that the rotation is going to come through quickly enough. This is well under half health already, and now you're going to get some main carries hitting.
Underrated play, YCX disguising himself as Skarner, now positioned perfectly to stop the engage because they triple top loss and YCX, the GOAT for me of this play. But even that is not going to save a slightly greedy Heng, who sticks around for just a second and will fall. Still worth. So worth. Dude, I would give up Hong's life 8 times more if it meant we got the Baron. If we're gonna lose a lot more than that, though, I do start questioning what's going on. YCX burning down will be picked up. Burdol in a risky position. LGD cannot Baron and then throw.
God,
that cannot be allowed. Tangyuan, unfortunately, still a nuclear armament.
Yeah.
And we're good. You lose 2 for the Baron. Still worth.
I mean, you might lose more right here as ThunderTalk. They need to get away very, very quickly. Lucky that Tangyuan has decided to head top lane and start pushing in that wave rather than chasing them down through the middle lane. And LGD just going to sneak a Baron away from under the noses of ThunderTalk. Even with losing a couple members, they're going to be more than happy with this one. And you can see resets coming on through, extra items into the inventories. This damage coming through out of Tangyuan is hitting with 2 items, a needlessly large rod, and 10 stacks on a Dark Seal. That's not a lot of components overall.
Burdol. Oh, Burdol is getting away.
Bye, Burdol.
That's just a no cyclone moment. Yeah,
Yep.
Well, goodbye.
Yep.
And him getting out is nice because had he actually fallen, I mean, it doesn't end the Baron play. It's still positive for LGD, but it feels a lot worse if one of your 2 side laners just doesn't really have access to this buff. As it is, an almost 10,000 gold lead for LGD in even more convincing fashion than game 1. Looks pretty unlosable for them. I'm in the same boat as we were at the end of game 1, where we were like, well, LGD would really have to throw this game.
Very much so, and with the Baron available to them, they just need to sync up these waves a little bit better. At the moment, a little bit of a disconnect between what the mid and bot waves are doing and the top wave, but this will be pouring on in pretty quickly, and all of this standing gold outside of the base falling as well. Just continuing to prop up this LGD that have looked so good in this game. Mid lane, tier 3 tower will fall. The base is now well and truly wide open. A really unfortunate situation. And I mean, we can point a lot of blame to a lot of different places in this game. Keshi overstepping, Heru and Junhao not making things happen. But Ziggs has taken no towers in this game. That's just a overall failure of ThunderTalk to make this composition work for them.
I absolutely agreed. I mean, it is tough when you're in a losing position, but access to towers is necessary for Ziggs. We've still got 3 plates in the bot lane. Not a single tower has been taken for the side of ThunderTalk, and honestly, that is a big sign of the way that they have struggled to find even ways into this game at all. Burdol will be assassinated in the side lane, Mission Impossible style, but ThunderTalk still have lost a bunch. It is a 9,000 gold lead in the favor of LGD. We are creeping ever closer to the 10k as our Baron power play is going to wrap up.
And as he said, right, one of the side laners losing out onto their lives does really take a lot of the wind out of the sails from the LGD push. They're going to have to head back to the drawing board for a couple of seconds, but it's not going to be too tricky to figure out what they want to do next. 3 seconds until the next Drake will spawn. It will be sole point for LGD. They don't even need to particularly prioritize this one, though. 2 minutes 20 seconds is the real prize with the next Baron, and that should be the one they're looking to end around, unless, of course, ThunderTalk decide to over-aggress and try to compete for this Drake. With it not being sole, I think there's no real reason for ThunderTalk to go for this play. They instead just need to be trying to scrape as much more gold together as they possibly can. They need these third items onto these key carries, like the Ziggs, like the Cassiopeia, in order to be able to compete.
Speaking of third items, Rabadon's death cap picked up by Tangyuan. If he wasn't killing you fast enough before, he's certainly changing that now. Tangyuan has had a great, what's the word that I want to look for? Target prioritization. And even now, I like what he's doing. Clearing out the vision, knowing that he is the threat. As Eisenberg said, I am the danger. And Tangyuan absolutely is. That is Keshi deleted in the area. Knows he has to back away with absolutely no vision to save his life. How are we collecting gold when we can't even step outside of our base? And that's the paradox that ThunderTalk must solve.
They're just hoping to be able to pick up enough of these super minions pouring into their base to be able to stabilize things out, but with a 10,000 gold deficit, that is going to be quite the tall order. Mid lane inhibitor already down, bot lane tower very soon to follow, with almost all 5 members ready to play around the bot lane. Let's see where the engage comes.
Heng's got Impale as well, so ThunderTalk can't even really step up this. Even if Junhao wanted to engage, it's 4v5 and there's an Impale up. No thank you. Second inhibitor will fall, and Baron is up again in 30 seconds.
That should be exactly what it is that LGD need to close out this game number 2, put themselves on match point, and ThunderTalk recognizing that, going to look to push through the mid lane, go and get themselves some vision established around this Baron. 10,000 gold, the disadvantage, as we've been saying, reflected in there being 3 items completed on these main carries for LGD. ThunderTalk still dealing with 2 and some scraps. And so you need a real miracle of a fight here from ThunderTalk, a pick onto one of these key members. You cannot allow Tangyuan to just rip you apart.
Yeah, who's flanking who here? Junhao, certainly not the one that's feeling like the flanker, as a beautiful Pop Blossom comes in from YCX to follow up on the Impale out of Heng, serving up 2 kills for LGD. Heru forced to flash away from Burdol, and he's still being run at, make no mistake. Burdol, absolutely uncaring, has the tank stats, has the damage to take out to take out Heru, maybe to take out both. Well, Tangyuan can certainly do the job for him, taking out both the carries. Tangyuan's flanks have been legendary this game, and that will, unfortunately for us, be the last one we see, and the last one that ThunderTalk see, as this second game will be going to LGD in somehow even cleaner style, albeit longer than the first.
Only just longer. 27 minutes, 30 seconds is still very fast for how much the meta has been dragging on recently, and it looks like LGD just have the number of ThunderTalk. It was a slightly better early game out of ThunderTalk, but once again, LGD just begin to ramp up, and one man in particular has been all over the Rift right now, Tangyuan. Take a bow, my man. That may well be 2 MVPs in a row for him in this series.
Yeah, last game, I was like, no, Tangyuan really got set up by Heng. This game, if they don't give it to Tangyuan, it is the most unethical LPL broadcast that we've ever seen.
Okay. Hey, look, there were some nice moments from YCX, right? He was able to hit a couple of big Pop Blossoms, was able to grab the Tangle Bobs onto key members once or twice. Heng found some good engages too. You can't take away from Heng and his impales. Those were setting up a lot of the Tangyuan kills, right?
That's true. I'm really proud of him. I'm proud of him. I think he did a good job. But let's not compare apples to farmers market apples. That was a dumb way to go.
To farmers market. We'll see. We'll see if the farmers market of apples is able to pick himself up another game MVP. Maybe he could do a clean sweep of all 3 games so far, because I've got to be honest here. What a ThunderTalk do, because they've tried 2 quite different compositions and they have found absolutely nada to really be able to play around.
I'm in the same boat. I came into this series and I'm going to continue through game 3 being the guy that is hoping for ThunderTalk to perform well, to give us the team that took game off of J2G. Remember, guys, we can't forget that. That's a big win for ThunderTalk. Yeah. The fact that they have looked so abysmal in these 2 games, though, really is putting a damper on that. And I don't think ThunderTalk are like throwing these huge games. LGD are playing well, and ThunderTalk don't really feel like they are playing the same game. They're playing to catch up, but LGD are the ones with first move all the time, with tempo. They're the ones making shots on goal.
Yeah, they're the ones that know what up at this point, right? They know how to make the game work, and so much of it is just these lanes winning for themselves, because ThunderTalk did well for themselves in this bottom lane. This was a slightly more aggressive bottom lane to play around, and there was a moment where it looked like they might actually be able to overcome what is a very weak early game and make the early game work for them, but there was just never enough aggression coming on through. Junhao makes 1 gank work, but he really needs to be giving more to us at this point. I think we've seen him play a couple of champions that, you know, want to sit and find themselves some early ganks but aren't necessarily the most aggressive during the early game. At this point, if you are gonna fall far behind this early on, I think you need to be picking up something uber early, you know, a Neferi, a Lee Sin. You know, let's just go and play right now and find ourselves some kills in the beginning couple of minutes, because if you don't, it feels like LGD get themselves a little bit of a lead and just never look back.
And I do sympathize with the issue for ThunderTalk, because I agree with you, right? Like, you want to be playing something that is early game, because on paper you're going, well, LGD have this really good early game. Maybe it's the champions that are our issue. Maybe the champions aren't doing this well enough. There's the other way of looking at that is that Junhao doesn't want to play early game. That for whatever reason, in scrims, in practice, in whatever it is, him picking something like a Pantheon just isn't working out for them, because it's not where he's comfortable playing. And unfortunately for ThunderTalk, the reality is, if Junhao's not comfortable playing an early ganking style, or they're not picking him these early ganking champions, whichever of those 2 things it is, because it can be either, it could be both. Whichever it is, it's going to be one of the biggest problems they have to overcome this series, or they're going to go down 0-3, because that is the big stylistic issue that LGD, both in regular season and now, have been able to exploit.
Absolutely, and this is the thing, right, for ThunderTalk. When you don't have these individual laners that are particularly strong at what they do, it does just not open you up to playing as much of the early game. It doesn't open you up to being able to just sit back and chill and let the late game happen to you either. When ThunderTalk were able to beat IG in the play-ins 3-0, it felt like they played very aggressive. They knew what they wanted to play. They wanted to get in the face of their opponents and make them uncomfortable, but it's exactly that game plan that is being used against them by LGD, and unfortunately it looks like LGD are just better. Now, does that mean LGD are just better than IG? I guess so in this situation.
I mean, LGD are playing very well. I think the question for them is not whether they're better than IG, it's whether they're better than AL, right? That's the next question you have to deal with, right? You win this series, how much further can you get into the playoffs so far? They have looked incredible in our 2 games so far, and despite, again, the fact that it was technically marginally slower, this game 2 was even more convincing than game 1 to me, Bloxxer.
Yeah, I think the early game gave a little bit more hope that there was something brewing for ThunderTalk, that they might potentially be able to play around 1 or 2 of these lanes. That did not come to fruition whatsoever. The second that you got a couple of early kills on the Tangyuan, he started taking over. But I'd more specifically like to draw attention away from Tangyuan, who will get a deserved MVP, but over towards this Skarner. I really liked what Heng was able to do once again. I highlighted it early, right? He didn't actually go for those big these big invades into the jungle that we've been expecting. Instead, he just played it much more standard, took the gank available to him and Keshi in the top lane, and just never looked back. The impales were beautiful, the aggression was really good right here. I think Heng has been overall having a great series, and when we highlighted how this jungle matchup was going to be so important, the fact that Heng's been coming out ahead every single time is a big part of why LGD have been able to put themselves in such dominant leads that they have.
I look forward to seeing what he'll grab for game number 3 as well, because the transition from Vi to Skarner is a pretty sharp one in terms of your ability in the team fight, and I would say even your role, where Vi sort of gets to act as this initiator. Skarner has to play a much more frontline role despite the CC that he brings, and he's been able to play both of those so incredibly well. A big part of that, of course, is having Tangyuan, who was always looking for these Mondo flanks. It was absolutely wild to see him manufacture these, and this is one of the things that we can point to and go, hey, this is what a solo laner that transitions into wins looks like. This is what I would love to see more out of ThunderTalk, but what I'm not expecting ThunderTalk to have, that LGD always have as a lever that they can pull. How much autonomy are we able to give our solo laners in the early stages? Because when they have gold, it turns into plays like that.
Yeah, exactly. This is a situation where, as LGD, if you really do need to focus all of your attention down into the bot lane to make sure that Shaoye and YCX get through that early laning phase, you can, but you don't need to in this situation, which unlocks Heng to go and get involved in these other lanes. You're absolutely right on that one, and it's just making it so difficult for ThunderTalk, and God, we would love to see a couple more games. We'd love to get a full 5-game banger. Right now, I just haven't seen any life out of ThunderTalk, and would be surprised if they turn it on in Game 3. Still, it might end up happening, and yes, as you said, incredibly ethical right here. Tangyuan picking himself up his second game MVP of this series.
Yeah, this one was bonkers, is the word that I'm going to go with. Tangyuan looked ridiculous on the Rift, and he did it from pretty early on as well. Normally we'll see LeBlancs have to wait a little while longer before they get some items online and are finally able to put out threat onto the back line, but given the early game that Tangyuan had, the way that he was able to position, it is an unquestionable MVP and a bit of a redonkulous game from him. That's 2 in a row. Maybe he can make it 3, as LGD do have to win just a single more game. ThunderTalk staring down the barrel of a reverse sweep should they want to continue in this series, and more importantly in this tournament, as we are in the lower bracket. And should ThunderTalk lose here, their season will be over. LGD have a chance to continue, and they have done a fantastic job so far. However, before we let you guys go, before everybody grabs some water, I would like to remind you that these broadcasts here on the LPL English are organized in-house. We've got everything going on here, and so if you would like to support the LPL English broadcast, the best way to do so is by checking out our Ko-fi and hopefully becoming a member, as Ko-fi is the best way to support the LPL English. A lot of the contributions that we get through Ko-fi, or rather I should say the vast majority of them, will go to making sure that the broadcast happens, putting forward the package, putting forward the graphics that you're seeing right here, right now, but also to paying on-air talent and making sure that everybody can show up week over week and cover the amazing games that we've got over in the LPL. It is a privilege to cover these games, so thank you to all of our supporters for making it possible. We've got a lot to look forward to in game number 3, or at least LGD do. ThunderTalk have a lot to be afraid of. We are going to take a quick break, and we will be back with our 3rd game of the series.